Okay, so yes, my name is Tom Wood, and I am part of the National Statistics, part of the Research and Statistics Department at the NCIs. My role has previously been around developing the energy footprint tool and energy toolkit. And I'll show you today a live demo of the energy footprint tool. So if you navigate to your parish returns, if you log into parish return system, you'll be able to enter data for your return of parish finance, your statistics for mission, and your energy footprint tool. So we'll show you this one. Simply click enter your data once you're logged in. You'll be first shown this initial entry page, for which you'll be asked how many buildings you'd like to enter data for. For this demo, I'll show you how to enter data for one building. Potentially, if you've had a church hall or another additional building, you can press add a building here and it will add an additional building. For each building you enter data for, you'll be asked to enter a building name. This is just to help you keep track of what building you enter data for. For this one, I'll type in main church. If you had an additional building, such as a church hall, you could enter church hall here. For each building, you'll be asked what sources of energy does the building use. You then need to tick which energy source your building uses. For this demo, we'll take electricity and gas, just to keep things simple. You'll notice these other boxes. Oil is for churches that use oil. Alternative covers or various alternative heating technologies, such as heat pumps and combined heat and power. Solar is the box you tick if your building has solar panels. And other is the box you tick, which covers anything not listed here. So that would include LPG, and biomass, so wood pellet boilers. If your church is a very old church that isn't connected to the national grid, doesn't have any gas heating, any oil heating, there is the option to tick no energy is used in this building. This is really useful for us to know, even if your church doesn't. So your church might be asked to fill out the energy footprint tool, even though they don't use any energy. If you do, if you are in that category, please do log in and tick that box, just because it lets us know that your church doesn't use any energy. So just for this demo, I'll just show you how to enter data for one building. So I'll remove that building. So when you press next, you go over to the next page. You'll be asked what the primary heating fuel is for the building. This is the heating fuel that mainly heats the building. So in this example, we'll say the building is heated by mains gas. If your building was heated by electric heaters, you could press electricity. If you ticked oil on the previous page, then oil would be an option to tick here. There is then a question on your electricity supplier. Now, these electricity suppliers here are ones that we've done a bit of due diligence around, and we know provide genuinely renewable electricity. Some electricity suppliers will offer you a green tariff, but they don't actually purchase the electricity. They green electricity directly from a wind farm or another renewable energy source. They simply purchase certificates that prove that an equivalent amount of green energy exists within the grid. Whereas these ones that we've got here genuinely do purchase the electricity directly from the renewable energy suppliers. So for this example, we'll tick other. If your energy supplier is not on this list, you can enter the name of the energy supplier in this box. We have this question, is your electricity tariff a green tariff? If you press yes, then we record that as a green tariff, and we use what you've ticked in this box, in this thing here, to calculate whether that's, sorry, I've just got the noise in the background. Sorry, Keela. Oh, sorry. Sorry about that. Where was I? Yes, so with this question on whether or not the electricity tariff is a green tariff or not, if you press yes and you've ticked one of these green electricity suppliers, we record that as green electricity. If you press another supplier and still tick yes, it's not counted against your carbon footprint, but it is recorded separately within the energy toolkit, and I'll show you that at the end. We then ask how much electricity was purchased. You've got the kilowatt hour figure, which will be on your energy bill. You may have to take several quarterly or monthly bills and add up the total figure for the year. But this figure will be on your energy bill. If you can't find it, you can enter your total spend of on electricity. It's preferable to enter the kilowatt hour figure because that gives us more accurate results. But we have ways of estimating your kilowatt hour energy usage from your total spend on electricity if you don't have that the above figure to hand. If you do enter the cost of electricity, please enter it inclusive of any standing charges and VAT, etc., because we factor that in the calculations. So for this example, I'm going to put in a number. I'll put in 3,000 kilowatt hours. If your church has a mains gas supply, which we ticked in the earlier entry page, again, we have a list of pre-accredited gas suppliers. These are ones that supply genuinely renewable biogas. We have, as with the electricity question, we've got the box for other. I'll enter in another one here. Again, we have a similar question on is your gas tariff a green tariff? If you have pressed, if you've selected one of these suppliers and press yes, then we count that as renewable biogas, and we use the appropriate calculations. We use the appropriate conversion factors for that. If not, we treat it as an offset, which I'll show you at the end. Again, as with the electricity questions, you've got the volume of gas purchased or the cost of gas. We will enter a volume of gas purchased. When this figure will be on your bill, but do check which units it's listed on your bill. It's usually in kilowatt hours. Some providers might quote you in cubic meters or hundreds of cubic feet. So please do check which one of these is reported on your bill. Going on to the next page. Lists and fills, that's fine. We have some optional questions. This question here is about work-related travel expenses claimed during the year. This is to get a sense of your church's carbon footprint from work-related travel. So if you've got any work-related travel claims you want to include in your carbon footprint, you press yes and enter the number of miles. We then have a section about that puts your energy, it's designed to put your church's energy use into context. So you don't need to fill out this question. You'll still get this section. You'll still get your carbon footprint without filling out this section. But if you do enter data into here, you'll get a sense of whether your church uses a little or a lot of energy for the size of the building and how much usage the building gets. So the first question is the building footprint in square meters. This will maybe pre-populated in your in your church's page on the EFT. We do have some data we hold centrally, and we've pre-populated the toolkit with that. It's blank in this one because I'm using a dummy church. But this may be pre-populated. If it's not pre-populated, then enter an approximate figure. These figures, the data in this section isn't collected for statistical purposes, so it doesn't need to be 100% accurate. So ballpark figures are fine here. So I'll enter just a figure here. We then have questions on usual Sunday attendance and usual weekday attendance. If you fill out your statistics submissions returns, this data will be pre-populated from what you entered in statistics submissions. You don't have to enter it again. I'll put some numbers in here just to show you what happens. We then have a further question, just for a ballpark estimate of number of other church users who aren't attending Sunday and weekly services. So people like church community groups, classes, special services, casual visitors. Again, this doesn't have to be 100% accurate. It's just to give you a sense of whether or not your church uses a little or a lot of energy for the size of the building it is. So a ballpark figure is absolutely fine. I'll just put a number in here. And also the number of hours that the church is open in an average week. I'll put 20 in here. So this will then take you through to the results page. It will give you your gross carbon emissions in tons and your net carbon emissions in tons. So the difference between gross and net is the gross is the amount of carbon your church has produced. Net carbon emissions will be factoring in things like whether or not your church is on a green tariff, whether or not whether you have solar panels and they're exporting to the grid. So your net CO2 emissions, if you have solar panels or you're on a green tariff, your net CO2 emissions should be lower than your gross CO2 emissions. We also have this section for renewables and offsetted, non-accredited. This is just keeping an account of when I showed you earlier, we had that list of pre-approved green tariff providers, and we said we were on a green tariff, but we weren't with one of those green providers. This will factor in the non-accredited renewables and offsets from those non-accredited green providers, but it won't be factored into your net carbon emissions because it's not accredited. We then have these energy efficiency bands to give you a sense of where your church ranks compared to other churches. So in this example I showed you today, we had a fairly average, this church's carbon footprint was average, it was in the 50th percentile. So around half the churches in England produce less carbon than this church, and around half of them produce more. When we factored in the size of the building, we got a very similar result. Sort of roughly half the churches produce less carbon than this church when you account for the building size, and roughly half produce more. We then, when I entered that data on church building uses, we then produce this band, which gives you a sense of how much energy your church uses for the number of people that use the building and how often it's open for. We put in quite a lot of people in that box. So this church is in the 0 to 10th percentile of once you adjust for the number of people that use the building. So considering the number of people that use the building, this church is actually using its energy very efficiently. And there we go. If you get to the bottom of this page and you need to change what you've entered, you can press enter data. That'll take you back to the start. Reset data entry will clear everything, and submit will close the form off and lock it for further editing. And there we go. That's a whistle-stop tour of the energy footprint tool.